from 1770 to 1810, several hundred songbooks were produced in mostly New England. And in these genres of music that we sing today, psalm tunes, anthems, fuguing tunes, which have these imitative entries.
So we started to see this proliferation of songbooks peddled by itinerant singing masters who took their wares and talents from one village to the next, running singing schools. Families would gather for a week or 2 weeks at a time, and under the tutelage of this dynamic personality, they would learn about the songs, learn how to sing, and then create this new local market for his book while he moved on to the next one.
It was full-throated singing, which was harmonically simple, preferring open chords and parallel fifths, which were declared incorrect by the modern European musicians.
About the time it began to hold sway and all the colonists took to it, they loved it, and then here come the Better Music Boys from Europe. And they said, oh, this homespun stuff, this is awful. They violate every rule of music. It's just not in the European tradition. It's terrible. Professional musicians said, oh, it's awful music. It doesn't harmonize right. He violates, has all these open fifths and two-note chords and all this sort of thing. And everything that they detested was in the music of the early colonist composers.
Teachers like Lowell Mason, who started normal institutes for music teachers and got music into the public schools, and Thomas Hastings and some who really didn't like shape notes at all. So those people had a lot of influence especially in the church circles and cultured circles in the North, and so it was in the West and the South where the shape notes remain more vigorous.
Critics decried the music that emerged from the singing schools as old-fashioned and unscientific songs written by bumbling backwoodsmen. In a way, they were right in declaring it old-fashioned. This music had more in common with the harmonic norms of the Middle Ages and Renaissance than with any modern scientific music that Lowell Mason promoted. In some respects, this older style that was taught by itinerant singing masters resembled the American landscape. It was wild, untamed music which, as the Better Music movement tried to control it and tame it, simply moved to the next frontier. The singing school tradition made its way south and west into untamed and uncharted territory. The South especially embraced this music and became its adopted homeland for the next century and a half.
As the country grew and moved southward and westward, so did the singing schools to the frontier.
In Spartanburg, South Carolina, a singing master named William Walker published the Southern Harmony, the most popular shape note songbook of the 1830s. The first sacred harp historian, Joe James, tells the possibly apocryphal story that Singin' Billy Walker, as he was known, compiled the Southern Harmony with a great deal of help from his brother-in-law, B.F. White, who was also a singing school teacher. However, when Walker traveled north to have the book printed, he returned with a book called The Southern Harmony by William Walker. B.F. White's name was nowhere to be found. Furious, White left South Carolina with his family and set up shop in Hamilton, Georgia. 9 years after the publication of the Southern Harmony, White released The Sacred Harp, with the help of a young local resident named E.J. King. King was a young man of some means and displayed a love and aptitude for music. The Sacred Harp contained many of the same songs as earlier songbooks, but also included new songs by White, King, and their associates. It was a great success. But King, who was 21 years old, never had the opportunity to enjoy it. In 1844, the very year the Sacred Harp was published, E.J. King died. While it was not that different from other shape note hymnals of its time, the Sacred Harp is by far the most enduring. In part, this is because B.F. White included new songs written by his friends, students, and colleagues such as J.P. Reese, who in turn supported the book by selling copies and using it at the singing schools they taught in Georgia and Alabama.
B.F. White, they said he observed the freaks of nature, and being a student of nature, he brought that into his compositions, and it was the same with J.P. Reese. And Hugh McGraw tells a story of J.P. Reese composing outdoors in rural Georgia, and a song that's in the Sacred Harp, and looking for the right note to be just a little bit different. And at that time he heard a cow in a nearby field, whoa, and he heard that, Reese heard that as a musical sound and put that into the melody of the song that we sang. Weep and I mourn and I move slowly on, and it gave just a little feel to that tune.
B.F. White created an environment for his book to thrive in. He was of a rare breed, an artist who has real business savvy. It would seem that he intended the book to survive its author, for he was at work on a new revision when in 1879 he died following a fall on Spring Street in Atlanta. He was 79 years old. The majority of the songs in the Sacred Harp are no longer sung in most modern churches, and even the familiar songs are rendered somehow foreign in this context. New Britain is the most famous song in the book, although most know it as Amazing Grace.